offenders. That is to say, the suspect himself and also the offender. I think that doesn't necessitate that they are right. We think they have to just we think they have so much involved simply because it can but also that there is a level of innocence. If anyone has a bad to come and to us what the criminal is the suspect right? We think that is very bad to have an engagement in the right of trials simply because they are already right? And that is their human right? Because they have a right to fair judgment, right? We think it is very bad to have the right to public trials simply because there is no justice for the suspect, right? We think on that note then we oppose the right of public trials. More to that, we think that with the right of public trials, there is influence of decision making by the judge. Why do we think so? We think this because entirely the public that is being involved, they do not specify who exactly will sign these petitions and who will be involved in the decision making, right? We think that even when they are not on the panel, they have a right to incentivize and influence the decision of the judge, which is now against the rights of the suspect, right? We think they are still also humans and they deserve things like human rights protection. We think that in their own side of the house there is a lot of iniquity because of such kind of a perspective, right? We think that when the public notices that you are a suspect of something, there is a higher likelihood and a higher incentive for them to actually believe that you are a right? We then think that they do not have a right to come and talk about the terrorist mechanism. Let me show you how the terrorist mechanism is being achieved in both sides of the house. Notice that in the center of our very short that public trials already exist. We have a very big problem with the right of public trials. Simply because I now draw to the point of the terrorists, right? I think they do not have that right of coming over to talk about the terrorists because we already see that them being subjected to the public trials, not the right, is already deterring criminals in the country. We don't think there is no necessity for having the right of public trials. We feel keeping the status quo as this is much more important because the stakeholders are being protected, that is in terms of their human rights, that is to say the suspect and the offender, right? We think justice is the major aim of today's debate of both the offender and the suspect, which we achieve in the outside of the house when we have simply trials, not necessarily the rise of these public trials. We then think that on that perspective, we stand to win today's debate because also things like social media come with false information and delay in judgment.
Thank you so much for that fine speech. We can have the first segment of this examination.
Come again? This is before the public. I think you've heard in my respective speech. Come again? I've already told you that the public incentivizes the judgment. Therefore, there is a higher likelihood of changing the verdict. You will notify us about that in your speeches. We think a lot of rise in public trials is not the option to go with. We don't think public trials rise is an option to go with.
Alright, we can have the opening speech from team opposition ready by
Okay, so before the next speaker starts, public speakers move to the room. Let's all move to our room. We are starting the round as soon as I arrive in that room, as soon as Charlie, Judge, 70P, that arrives in her room also. We shall start the round. So let's be there.
I'll begin my speech in 3, 1, resolved. This also causes the rise of public trials. Public trials, in the case of the team opposition, brings here a case that maybe they see that the rise of public trials is the problem at hand, which we see that maybe they are trying to confuse the whole congregation. How do they say the rise of public trials is a problem? They say a rise of public trials is maybe a lot of growth and influence in the public trials. They say the public trials have been present, but currently it is being risen. And what do they bring at the table? They bring problems like suspects' names are tarnished, innocence of the criminal is not known to the public, there is unfair judgment, there is no justice for the suspect. They say that maybe there is influence of decision making, they say there is iniquity, there is no deterrence in our case, and they also ask us if we can tell them about Act 28. Act 28, it is a constitutional right. It is a constitutional right that allows all citizens to be involved in a session of a court, and that is Act 28. Therefore, we see that in a public trial, there is that Act 28 that is being catered for. What is, if they can say that we don't want the rise of public trials, what's the option? They're not giving us the option. As the vice speaker asked them in the cross-examination, they are talking about social media and delay in judgment. Social media and delay in judgment. How do you see this? They say social media is going to tarnish the judgment. Maybe social media is going to influence the decision making. But we see the judgment is always made over the constitution of Uganda. If the judgment is made over the constitution of Uganda, how do you tell me that this judgment is going to influence the judgment? How do you tell me that this social media is going to influence the judgment and bring about injustice? We don't see this. In this case, they talk of maybe a suspect's name is Spanish. How do they say that the suspect's name is Spanish? They say the suspect is going to be known as someone who is a criminal. They say in public they are going to see someone who is suspected being a criminal. And after that, they don't tell us. They say that maybe someone, when someone is found innocent after being a suspect, the public won't be innocent. But already, it is a public trial. A public trial is where you find people are judged, and after being judged, they are sentenced to what they should do if they are found guilty. And if they are innocent, they are set free also in public. Therefore, the public is also rest assured that someone is innocent or guilty. Therefore, there is nothing like tarnishing the name of the suspect after being found innocent, because the innocent is also publicly. What do they say? They say there is no justice for the suspect. How do you tell me there is no justice for the suspect in this? A public trial, people are witnesses, people have evidenced everything, people are watching that maybe this one is wrong, this one is not wrong. How do you tell me someone is not going to have justice, yet people are there to witness everything? They talk of iniquity. They say that offenders and suspects should the offended and the suspect should be the ones in between. But remember, there are those people who have eyewitness. They are also the public. They should come to the table and be in the case. And that's the public trial. What is the rise today? The rise today, we talk of the Okello Onyum Christopher court session, which was made public, and maybe the trial is also made public. They bring about, should the Ugandan rugby prayer case of the suspect be brought to a public trial? It is a public demand that should be brought to a public trial. Why do we see that public trials? Why do we see the rise of public trials being advantageous in our case? In our case, public trials, first of all, they bring about reduced crime rates. Because people fear shame. They fear to be ashamed in front of others, and therefore they will not get involved in those crimes. Therefore, we shall have a crime-free area. They talk of they bring about transparency because, one, it is a public trial. Being reason to a public trial, people will have to see that there is transparency in the judicial system. There is public trust. People will have a public trust in the judiciary, and that's what we want in Uganda. Therefore, we are trying to promote justice and transparency in a criminal-free world in our world, whereby we see in their world there is, first of all, increase in bribery, there is increase in justice. In injustice, which we do not want in our Uganda today, and that's why we bring about the rise of public trials and defend it that it is indeed advantageous because it brings about justice and transparency. As my second speaker will continue to clarify you clearly, better than the team opposition, but team proposition, I ask, what is the status quo? Thank you very much.
All right, let's have the first segment, the segment for cross-examination.
Innocence or the guiltiness of the person.
Justify the problem solvents you have on your side of the house when you have the rights.
My second speaker will be there for that.
Okay, so even when you claim that you have so-called public rights, right? Does that justify the fact that the suspect's name will still be tarnished?
Pardon?
Even when you claim you have to have a perfect right, justify the accountability of his name being tarnished.
All right, we can get to the second speeches ready. 3 minutes, right?
okay, this house opposes the rise of public trials. So what negative side has failed to understand is the rise that is happening in today's world. So they fail to understand that the rise includes social media, things like social media. So they fail to characterize on that. So that is why they fail. So they talk about the Act 28 of the Constitution, but they fail to understand that this act actually favors public trials, but not the rise of public trials, and that is what they fail to understand at the end of the day. So we then think that when there is no rise, and there is just public trials, we then think that people are involved at the end of the day. So they do not give a clear justification of that. So they talk about transparency, but again on transparency, they talk about people, thousands of people talking about one suspect who they can't even know whether they are innocent or whether they are committed a crime. But they fail to understand that transparency is blinded by things like social media that has risen at the end of the day. So that is what they fail to understand. So they talk about bribery and injustice, but what we show you is that bribery happens on their side of the house, where many people are involved in something. So on our side of the house, we show you that a case is being handled between 3 or 4 parties. So what the people that are involved are the judges, the offender, and the eyewitnesses. So bringing the involvement of other people is not going to. At the end of the day, what happens is that the judges are influenced by their decisions are influenced by what the people think, right? So the majority, using social media, this is not what would want to happen on our side of the house. So the rise is the problem that we would not want to see. So they also talk about judging fairly the innocent, but they fail to understand that even when these people are innocent, they are spread all over social media, and they are being talked to. People comment negatively about them. So what happens is that they create a negative thing on the name of this innocent person, and at the end of the day, we think that is violation of human rights. But on our side of the house, we show you that this weekend's decision making, the rise of it. And also number 2, we show you that there's much bureaucracy at the end of the day. So the process being handled by many people that aren't supposed to even to be involved. This creates something like a delay, and at the end of the day, the justice that was supposed to be provided is not provided at the end of the day. So we show you that the stakeholders are favored on our side of the house, where we support something like public trials only without the rise of it. We characterize for you what happens in the rise, things like social media. Want to see. So they also talk about judging fairly the innocent, but they fail to understand that even when these people are innocent, they are spread all over social media, and they are being talked to. People comment negatively about them. So what happens is that they create a negative thing on the name this innocent person, and at the end of the day, we think that is violation of human rights. But on our side of the house, we show you that this weekend's decision making, the rise of it.
The innocence also posted on social media or not?
So the innocence, even if it was to be posted on social media, we think that people have already tarnished the name of this particular individual.
Thank you. Do you believe that there is no tarnishing of someone's name?
The tarnishing of the person's name is there because people comment negatively about this particular person, and at the end of the day, people comment negatively about this very person.
What is the status quo of this?
So the status quo is that there is a rise in public trials, which we are actually against. Thank you.
so resolved. In today's debate, we actually see confusion from the team proposition, where they come and speak about innocence. Actually, only their case is rotating about innocence. So now, we're supposed to know how this, if they speak about the tarnishment of the suspect's name in public, how do they explain this in today's resolution? So now, they also know that if a person is found innocent or guilty, the case is posted on social media. So now, what do we see in today's resolution? From our case, we explain it clearly that even if the person is found innocent, the person is still posted on the social media saying that the person is actually innocent. So that actually shows justice. So now, first of all, in today's resolution, we have to understand what is the problem. What problem do we see in private? What problem do we see in private trials? First of all, we have bribery and we have injustice, which is not in our case. So now, if the public trials have been made on Okello and you have actually come to realize that the person is actually guilty, what question do they still understand? Do they still want to know about tarnishing the name of a person? If the person is found guilty, the person is actually guilty, and also the public has to know that the person is actually guilty. So now, in today's resolution, what are we promoting in our case? We are promoting justice and transparency and the crime-free world, which is not actually in their case. So now, when they come to their resolution, they say that isn't the Article 28 from the Constitution option, and actually have to understand if it's a right of human beings, then we're not denying their rights. And also, they also say that we have the delay of justice. If people are hearing, if people are there to witness what is actually being happened, if the testimonies and what the person is speaking, actually to know that the justice actually is delivered quickly. And also, what do we see in our case where we have the public trials? We see reduced crime rates because there is fear of shame, and also we see transparency because the people follow up to demand for accountability. And also we have public trust in justice. If the people are able to hear the testimonies of the person being tried in front of the public, they're able to know that actually they have promoted justice, because they know that the person is supposed to speak that I'm innocent or I'm guilty, or they follow up the person to find that a person actually did a specific crime, and actually find that we are promoting justice in our case. And also, what are we seeing that is the problem? In their debate, they say that they do not want public trust. Then they have not given us what they want in today's resolution. So we beg them to come and explain what they want.
Alright, so can we have the last segment of cross-examination?
Speaker, what happens if the suspect is declared innocent?
If the person is declared innocent, and the people know that the person,
what happens to the name that has already been tarnished on things like social media?
the name will not be tarnished because the person is.
Thank you. Do you concede to the fact that public trials deter criminalism?
No.
Thank you so much. Have we had public trials in place?
Since you have already known that Okello had a public trial, you should actually know that.
Have we had public trials in place?
You have already had.
Okay. So do you think public trials deter criminalism? The fact that we've had,
As you claim. Do you think public trials deter criminalism?
yes, thank you so much. Account for bribery that happens undercover, not in public.
That's why we're putting public trials to stop the bribery.
Account now, if a judge is in their house and they are found, they account for the bribery that happens
In
there.
public trials, we don't see bribery.
Do you understand that we don't have private trials in the entire parameter?
I think that's why we're creating public
So
trials.
account for,
Understand
listen,
our case clearly.
account for bribery undercover.
Can I have the last speech from
Okay. The resolution clearly states this also causes the rise of public trials, right? First of all, we think things like private trials are out of context in today's debate, because we think the person that wins today's debate is the team that is able to show us the feasibility of the rise versus public trials. So unless OP is able to show the rise is able to show
The problems in state, then they don't stand to win today's debate. Unless OP is able to show us how they solve the problem of bribery with the rise, they don't win today's debate.
able to show us how deterrence is so, or how deterrence is most effective with the right, they still don't lose, they still win, they still lose today's debate, right? Moving on, we think there's a big problem in the idea of which kind of portion interpretation they bring about in today's debate. They claim that we are actually looking at things like private trials, right? We think that is clearly out of context and it has been stressed enough. What we say is that unless they are able to show us that public trials in and out of itself is unnecessary or is useless, then they still lose in today's debate. What we come tell you from the first speech, from the second speech, and the third speech is that they are already effective. They fail to come and clarify their burden which they have on today's debate. But also too, on the idea of the trial of Okello, right? Even when we take them at their best case and he was proved guilty, right? We think it doesn't change the fact that he has been demonized, right? Still, at the end of the day, he can't live in society because his name has been punished, right? Moving on, I think we need to clarify on which kind of innocence they bring in today's debate. Even when the person is claimed to be innocent, we still think it doesn't change the fact that people will still be looking at him as someone who has cried. That is the demonization. The person who feel out of place, they fail to understand, right? They fail to understand that, right? But also too, on the idea of bribery, right? We think bribery is less achieved. This is a symmetrical point, right? It means it's both on our sides of the house, so it shouldn't be judged in today's debate, right? But we think it is more on their side of the house, whereby millions of people are engaged in this kind of thing, and therefore the decision that is made is unfair. What that does to society is that they don't show us how the resident solves that kind of problem. But we think in our side of the house, where we only support public trials, we think the effect of the harm that is brought would be less on our side of the house, right? But also too on the idea of deterrence, right? We think this is also an asymmetrical point, but what happens on their side of the house is that the deterrence isn't effective, right? In that when people or millions of people over social media see someone being tried, they are not going to care whether he's innocent or not. All they want to do, or all they want to see on social media, on TikTok, is that whether he is getting a punishment or not. And that is what happens when the rise is there. What happens when the other people oppose is that what happens is that when we have public trials in and out of itself, we are able to show you that the offenders, and all the people, all the stakeholders in today's debate are then so catered for in today's debate. But also three, we think that we beat them on both a principled level and a pragmatic level. On a principled level is that we are able to show them that they don't have the kind of fair judgment, because the judge is more likely to receive societal justification on his judgment. He's going to give either a long term or a shorter term than they would have thought. What happens with public trials is that we are unable to get this kind of effect, because the judge is more likely to give something because he won't fear that people are going to judge me on basing on the decision I made. That said, if someone didn't deserve that term, they are going to get something which is a higher term that they would have got in today's debate. I beg to rest.
I begin with this. From my first to the second speaker, we actually come here and clarify to these people that the audience and the public are not present as influencers of judgment. They are only present as demanders of accountability. So if they're actually present as demanders of accountability, how are they going to influence the judgment? And actually also verify to them that throughout the entire session, what we are looking at is completely driven by the constitution of Uganda. That is, it is completely driven by law. So how then do they come telling us, how then do they come convincing us that the people are going to actually influence this? In the first place, public trial is actually making sure, is actually fighting for the cause of the constitution of Uganda, is actually fighting the cause of justice, because in the first place, we want justice to be delivered. So there is no way that a judge or whoever is actually carrying out this process is going to deter from the law, because at the end of it all, what is justice delivered? And justice delivered can only be based on the law. Secondly, they have somebody stated their case on innocence of the suspect, but I actually pose a question to the first speaker, whereby I ask her, when they have actually been sentenced innocent, is it actually publicized? And she agreed that it is publicized. So then how is there a returnership of the suspect's name when innocence is actually being publicized as well? So they actually come here and decline the rise of public trials, but they do not actually tell us how they're going to make sure that justice is delivered in a country like this, whereby we are having a high level of injustice in the current judiciary system. So that's why we actually would like them to come here and be held accountable and tell us how they're going to actually make sure that injustice level has increased, is increasing without the public trial. Well, they actually also agree that they are actually also paying for public trial, and they say they are effective. So my question to them is, if it is actually effective, we need to promote it to make sure that all the other similar cases that are having this problem, only because there are thousands and thousands of other cases lying there. So why not actually promote the public trials to make sure that even those that are not receiving justice are receiving justice? Secondly, they actually also realize by coming here and agreeing that the public trials are actually effective, it also means that they realize that there is much that public trials can do compared to the private ones. So they also come here and tell us, how are we going to make sure that the judge has received that right under the roof of their house is not going to deliver wrong judgment. But I assure you, yes, they will deliver, they will get the
very many plain ideas. What you do is that break it down, show how that it gets happiness, like innocence is the third one. Even the people themselves even fear being witnesses because they don't want to be exposed to public stuff like that. Yeah, I think largely we talk about that. So the issue was, if you think that you put, if you expose, if you support the rise on your side, you most probably want to show why you think that then people will fear doing crimes, because the idea why it was a contradiction, like either with your case, your argument is whether people are tried publicly or in courts. One, the innocence is still there. If the presumption of innocence is there, if someone is guilty, is still guilty. So you want to create a distinction. Why then we should buy into the public trust, the public trial over the courtroom trials. You get. So at least when you have like two things like you're comparing, show even when the court system itself is there now, you are talking of things like bribery, then show the distinction that lies here on why you think then we have to forego this alternative to go. It's like where you have like you're joining a level, you need to offer like two combinations. Like on a simple basis, you have PCM, you have PCM. So you most probably want to say that even if you perform physics and biology, why do you think that when you say then you most probably prioritize biology over physics? So that's the distinction that was largely missing in your cases, and that the explanation that was like the missing logical gap, like try like to put a breakdown, most probably run like a number of things. And I think here you would most probably go in and and as a side speaker would most probably, because the problem that was here, like you tried repeating a number of things that were in speeches. That's why you say like at some point by such speeches I'm not writing. The issue is not that you're not speaking sense, but some material have already captured it in the first and second speeches. And that's how it's always like information is already captured. So what is the extensive analysis that you give, credited, and why maybe you're trying to make like substantive difficulties, but then like break them why you think there is no principle of fair judgment. Why do you think how does it like exist on their side, and how do you best achieve it on your side? So try like to do a bit of comparative and analysis. Yeah. So that's how you can summarize the round, unless there are any other questions. But best of luck in the outcome.
In position number 6. In position number 4, with 2 wins, average speaker points of 209.67 is the Team Canada. In top 3, now, in position 3, with 2 wins, average speaker points of 213.50 is the Team Brazil. Team Brazil. In second place, with 3 wins, average speaker points of 211.00, with a difference of 1 from the team breaking past, is the Team Argentina. So this year's fast breaking team is a team with 3 wins, 9 ballots, 212.67 average speaker points, the Team Switzerland. Let's start. Okay. The draw for this in room 3.
Quiet, please. If you miss your draws, don't ask again.
In room 3, where I am going to be your chair, we are going to have Switzerland versus Morocco. Room 3, Switzerland in proposition, Morocco in opposition. In room 4, we are going to have Argentina in proposition, Qatar in opposition. Argentina pro, Qatar pro. Room 4, room 5 rather. Room 5, we shall have Brazil in proposition and England in opposition. In room 6,
government should ban foreign ownership of agricultural land.
in room 6, we're going to have France in proposition and Canada in opposition. Chair for the first room will be I myself. Chair from the room with Argentina and Qatar will be Shanice, followed by Gift and Blessing. The next room with England and Brazil shall have Chandra, Aaron and Regan. And in the last room where we're having France and Canada, we shall have Brian as your chair. Let's move to the rooms.
Guys, your motion for the quarterfinals is a prepared motion. You don't expect prep time. Get to your rooms right now. The rounds will start when the judges enter. Please move fast. Guys, immediately the round is done, please come back here, not go anywhere else, so that the release draws for semi-finals immediately. Oh, wait. We are going to be convening in room 3, right? So, when your debates are done, move to room 3. For the teams that are broken,
make announcements. Should I start with poetry or public speaking? Poetry! Okay. So since I am in charge, I'm going to decide.
Start with poetry. Yes, you pray order or in no particular order. No particular order. Okay, so in no particular order, the following speakers are making it to the final of the poetry tracks. The first speaker making it to the final is beyond the Bridget. The second speaker, the second poet. Let's clap for Bridget. Thank you. The second poet making it to the final is Lumumba Rothbard. Congratulations, Rothbard. I can see I have put a together at the place here in the final. The fourth speak, the third poet making it to the final is none other than Namanya Tesi. Thank you, loud and one. Thank you very much. Okay, another speaker is very little. So the people in the I did the one. The fourth poet making it to the final is none other than Kansi Merizal. This final person, the rest was no particular order, but this final person was the best poet in the semi-finals, so I chose to read her none other than Asari Magdalene. So
let's move back to our room for our finals that we're going to start immediately. Poetry. But before you go, you listen to the public speakers and also clap for them, and then you will go. Is that okay? Public speaking track. I use in the final. In no right? Adala Irene, congratulations, Adala Irene. Nanku Dakendraka, congratulations. Uwayesu Speracia, congratulations. Adala John Bosco. The two Adalas are very going together. Eh? Congratulations. And now this particular speaker. Now the task for semi-finals was for this particular speaker to advocate for Okello Yabdu to be killed. So this speaker is the only one who was close enough to convincing me not to issue a death sentence after killing children. And that's none other than
Congratulations on the job well done.
So for the finalists, so I have been unfair all throughout the tournament to the extent that I'll pick people to speak at random. But now, out of the kindness of my heart, I'm choosing to create balance and let it be by chance, whether you're speaking first or you're speaking last. So, poetry, you'll come here, pick a balance, and then leave my balance here. We're going to make balance for both tracks, both poetry and public speaking. Poetry, you pick your balance and get your speaking order and move to the room where your final is happening, as well as the people in public speaking. You also come, step forward, pick your balance, and from that point, it will determine whether or not you're speaking first or last, right? Okay, so thank you very much to all the finalists. Congratulations on making it this far. I do pray that you do a good job, and the best of you should most definitely win. Okay, so poets, let's stand up. I've not said come, I've said stand up. So poets, let's stand up. Okay. And the balance for poetry. Okay. Now, as you're working on public speaking balance, I'm going to invite the poets to come and select their speaking order at random. Okay? You come. You may stay there and they pick everything except one, and you did not want to speak fast, you find yourself speaking fast anyway. You pick. And show me, pick, open and show me, open and show me, open and show me. Okay, who is number one? Who is number one? Who is number one? Okay, William? Yeah. Rockport is number one. Number two, William. Bridget is number two. Number three, William. Tracy is number three. Number four, Rizal is number four. Marjorie, and finally Marjorie will speak number five. Okay, so those were the points. Public speakers, you have to stand up. After registering, here you go. I know that thing. Public speakers, you come here. You come here. All the public speakers that are in the final. Again, a huge congratulations on a job well done. And finally, the final is the prepared speech, and as such, we expect a very beautiful speeches from your end. But then, most importantly, it is our prayer that the best speaker wins, right? And now my bad manners have stopped. I will not force you to speak fast when you do not want. My bad manners have stopped. When you know when you're in the final, you need to be respected. So I'm choosing to respect the finalists. Okay. Let's write here finalists. Yeah, it's on national television. Where are you going? You write here. You don't have a pen? She has a pen. Who's number one? Agara JB is number one. Who is number two? Uwayezu Speracia. Is that the correct pronunciation? Speracia is number two. Number three, Promise. Precious, sorry. Asimira Precious is number three. Precious is number three. Number four, Agala. Irene is number four. No, you're staying here. We are doing our finals from here. And finally, number five is Kendra. Okay, so for the purposes, so for the benefit of our viewers, I'm going to read the task prompt for the finals. The task prompt for the finals for this year's Chigezi tournament, Chigezi Regional Championship, is this. Okay. Finals task. Cortex slide. Cortex slide. Cortex slide. Cortex slide. Okay, you have 3 minutes of speech. You can start whenever you're ready.
Before I start, I want to make a shout out. I want to make a shout out at my judge, my trainer, and my school for this great opportunity given to me.
Yes, when you say judge, you should have clapped. Thank you very much.
Yes. Okay. The new way, Ahakuba, Oniwe. And because you are, this is the spirit of Ubuntu. Imagine a village where neighbors share food, help one another during hardship, and celebrated success together. Today, however, technology sometimes encourages isolation, selfishness, and division. As a result, the spirit of Ubuntu appears to the public. Yet, technology can also revive Ubuntu if used ethically. During times of crisis, digital platforms connect communities, support fundraising for the needy, and spread educational opportunities to remote areas. Ethical algorithmic can promote truthful information, encourage cooperation, and perceive African culture and language. Technology should not only make us smarter, it should make us more compassionate. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Africa does not need to choose between traditional and innovation. No, we can have both. By designing and in this digital age, let us ensure that as technology advances, our humanity advances with it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that fine speech. Thank you for that fine speech. I'm going to invite the second speaker to come and take to the stage. I'm going to request that you introduce yourself and your school just for the purposes of our viewers, and we can start from there. Right? Okay. You can start whenever you're ready. All the best.
People killing, people dying, children hiding, hear them crying. Can you practice what you preach? Or would you tell the other cheek? Father, 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 help us, send some guidance from above. People got me questioning, where is the love? Where is the love? Where is the love that was practiced by our forefathers? Where is the love that a neighbor manifested when you went to him saying that, hey, today I did not eat, today I did not get what to drink? Where is that love? Because I no longer see it. We are all humans, all right? But where is the humanity? Where is the Ubuntu that existed? Tell me. My 30-year-old brother has been jobless for 5 years now. He is supposed to be leading his own family, but right now he is out there jobless because he lacks no one to help him. My dad, that has battled diabetes for over years right now, has failed to stay in Mulago because of the poor services. Not only that, but because the land suffers, because he cannot afford it anymore. Where is the love that used to exist within relatives? Where is the love that used to exist between friends? Where are those friends? Where is that family? There are people out there, but it seemed the word Ubuntu was really erased from the words that used to be spoken. My name is Wael Sperantia. I offer BCM. But as a BCM scholar, I swear I go through a lot of challenges. And those challenges, if there was some student out there, maybe from Nigeria, that faces the same challenges to talk to, maybe I will pick myself together. That's why we need social media. We need social media to bring that love back, that Ubuntu, that spirit. Where a farmer from Nigeria will talk to a farmer in Uganda and say, hey, we need maize beside. What's the price? Come and sell to us so that our Africa will develop. That is the Africa we are looking for. Technology should not let our Africa fail. Should not let the spirit that used to exist stop. It should keep it moving. It should develop it. That is the love I'm talking about, the spirit of Ubuntu. We develop together. A student picks himself up together because there is a fellow. They become strong together. That's the Ubuntu I am talking about. Because I am, because you are. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for that fine speech. Thank you, Spira, for that fine speech. We're going to have a similar Precious as the next speaker in the finals. Yeah.
Well, my name is Academies Precious from Immaculate Heart Girls School. And before I begin my speech, I want to thank God because I am a finalist. I begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Globalization has given us a global village, but it has not given us a global community. It has connected our machines, but it's connected our souls. As a Pan-Africanist, a proud Ugandan, today I come to NCD Uganda to talk about Ubuntu. For generations, Africa was defined because of a simple truth, and that is Ubuntu. Ubuntu lifestyle was woven in the everyday life. Neighbors knew each other, shared resources, and supported each other. Children were not only raised by their own parents, but the entire community. Our societies survived drought and built communities not through the power of societies individually, but also the unbreakable code of human interdependence. Solidarity was our social security, and empathy was our courage. But where are we now? One of the aspects that Ubuntu held was forgiveness. When conflicts arose, communities sought for peace, solution rather than creating divisions. The goal was to maintain harmony, because peace understood that the well-being of one person affected another. Ladies and gentlemen, a silent revolution has entered our pockets to the technological transfer. In the purpose of individualism, people no longer know the crucial reason as why they are important to each other. They forget that the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself importance to others. Technological transfer is one of the basics necessary in the digital world. Technology is one of the key basics necessary in the digital world, but the most necessary thing about it is how we use it. Technology can support our communities through digital marketplaces that connect our local producers with our consumers. From the biased data to corrective world, AI is from the data we feed it. If we train technology only on capitalism, it will produce capitalism. If we train it individualism, it will connect individualism. We must eject a wound.
build digital bridges that bring us together. Africa will not only just get up to the technological world, but we shall be able to humanize it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for that fine speech. Can we have the fourth speaker? You have 3 minutes of speech. You can start.
First of all, I want to send shout out to my teacher, Mr. Christopher Mande, and my patron, Mande, and my patron, Mr. Kit Ayewale, for never giving up on me. I begin my speech in 3, 2, and 1. Pan-Africans in the room, shout out to you. Today I opened my mouth, not that I am a Pan-African, Jack, but because I am human. Every man for himself and God for us all has refreshed. I am because we are. Before we got digital, there is humanity. That we bear. There is blood flowing within our veins. With the technology that we now praise, with the technology that consumes most of our time, we must
Okay, thank you very much for that speech. This brings us to the end of the public speaking finals. May the best speaker win. I'll invite, I think, okay.